Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I will be talking about just a short little game, Kirby Squeak Squad! And that was my Squeak voice. I hope you really enjoyed it. But this is Kirby Squeak Squad for the DS, the original one. So it's a little dated as far as video games go. You know, I think Kirby is my favorite Nintendo character out of the whole roster. I do main him on Super Smash Bros., even though I'm not very good at Super Smash Bros., so take that with a grain of salt. But I really like the idea of Kirby. He's just like this all-powerful being, but just super innocent, and he just loves food, and the way that he can copy abilities and stuff. He's such a interesting character, and I really enjoy him. That being said, his games definitely aren't my favorite Nintendo games, but as far as the character himself goes, I think he's my favorite Nintendo character. Now, this game looks just like a lot of the other Kirby games. I think they all basically use the same game engine. If you've ever played Return to Dreamland, I think it's called, this is the remaster of the original Kirby game for the Game Boy Advance, or Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, or Kirby Superstar Ultra. All those games, they look very, very, very similar, and I wouldn't be surprised if they all use the same game engine. If I compared this game to a Game Boy Advance Kirby game, you probably wouldn't be able to tell which one is which without having played them. So I'm a little bummed out that they haven't updated the look at all. It's just plain old basic Kirby, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially if you really enjoy playing through Kirby games. This is just bare bones Kirby goodness if you consider Kirby to be goodness. And so it's basic, you're sucking up enemies, you're copying their abilities. There are some unique abilities to this one, I believe. I'm not a Kirby master or anything like that, but there is a magic ability, and I remember there being magic abilities in other Kirby games, but this one has kind of a unique moveset. You can throw cards, you can release doves out of your hat, you can do this big ol' weird jack-in-the-box thing. There's another one that you can unlock through playing through the game, which is like Ghost, which I've never seen before, and you can possess regular enemies and control the regular enemies, so that's kind of a cool power-up. There's a couple others that aren't really coming to mind at the moment. Like all Kirby games, there's some new abilities, lots of returns to the old ones. I'm sure the fire one, the electricity one, the beam, those are all returning power-ups in pretty much all the Kirby games. So you have that. The unique thing about this game is you can store things in bubbles, like in his stomach, I think. I guess he just doesn't digest the things in bubbles. And so you can store power-ups for later. You can store food for later. This is where if you obtain treasure chests throughout the level, there's treasure chests that have unlockables in them. This is where you store them. And you can have up to 5 things in Kirby's stomach at a time. Now, this was kind of a missed opportunity in my opinion, but when you have multiple power-ups, you are able to drag them together, and it basically shuffles into a whole new power. And there's only a couple cases where you can combine these powers. I really was hoping it'd be more like Kirby and the Crystal Shards. I really like the system in that game where you could combine 2 power-ups to create something totally new. A couple fun ones, you could get like ice and electricity, and then Kirby turns into a refrigerator, which spawns food. So I was really hoping that would be the case here, but there's only 2 cases where I found that this combination thing works, and it's usually with sword with an element, so you can combine like fire with sword and get a flaming sword, or bomb does this as well, so you get like an ice bomb. Everything else, it just shuffles into something totally random, which is kind of a bummer, missed opportunity there. But it is pretty nice being able to store like maximum tomatoes or power-ups for when you want to use them later. Like sometimes you'd find like a UFO in the bubble, and if you don't know, UFO is like one of the strongest Kirby abilities, and you could save it for when you really want it. And this was helpful when trying to get all the treasure chests, trying to get all the unlockables, because you need certain power-ups to remove obstacles to get to the treasure chest. So it was nice being able to hold on to that hammer for when you're underwater and you need to destroy some blocks or something like that. Now, I did talk about the treasure chests a little bit. These contain unlockables, and they're actually really cool unlockables. They give you incentive to go through all the levels, get all the treasure chests, and they're not too hard to find, but there are things like spray paint to change the color of your Kirby. There's music, you can get puzzle pieces to get a picture of Kirby. There's this is also how you unlock that ghost ability. You have to get like all 8 pieces, and then throughout the levels are these ghost bosses that you can defeat, and then you can get the possess ability. There's also keys to unlock secret levels. There's a lot of cool stuff to be unlocked here, a lot of good incentive to get all the unlockables. It's a short enough game that you might as well try to go for an 100% complete run if you're playing through it. I believe if you're not going for the unlockables, you could probably beat this game in an hour to 2 hours. It's really not that big of a game, and I did play through it all, and then I went backtracked, got all the unlockables, and then you do get a cool little time trial extra mode if you 100% complete this game, and it really doesn't do too much. I was kind of hoping for more something like Meta Knight in Return to Dreamland, but in this one, it's basically like a timer below you, and you're just trying to beat the game in under 2 hours. I looked it up afterwards, and you don't get anything if you beat extra mode within the time limit. It's more for like incentivized speed running, I think. But at least doing the 100% complete run, getting all the unlockables actually does something cool rather than just 100% next to your save file, so that's nice. So the story itself is actually pretty bare bones as well, as we would expect from a Kirby game, but there is a squad of squeaks, and these squeaks are just various forms of mice and rodents, and there's like one in a UFO, there's a really big strong one, and basically how these guys are implemented is at the end of each level, there's a really good treasure chest, like a big one. He's like a mini squeak boss kind of thing that you can either defeat him, get the chest, and finish the level, or you can just hurry and get the chest and then go through the exit. I found it really wasn't worth my time to fight the boss, like the mini bosses at the end of each level. Just grab the chest and get out of there before he can hit you and make you drop the treasure chest. If he does end up getting the treasure chest, he goes into his little mouse hole, and if you don't follow him into his mouse hole and get it back, it closes off, and then you have to replay the level to get this unlockable treasure chest, which I think is kind of a bummer. It usually didn't happen unless you weren't on your A game. And, Kirby games are pretty easy. The thing about getting these treasure chests, and just the regular treasure chests, not the end game ones, but most of the challenge comes from knowing the right way to go. For instance, there would be like 2 doorways. If you go through the left one, you might get like a food item, and then you'll see what you missed out on the right doorway, and it'd be a treasure chest. And there's not really any way to backtrack in these levels. You have to just end up replaying through them. And if you know the level, you can go through them pretty fast. So it's not that big of a deal, but I wish there was a way for you to backtrack, especially if you need a certain power and you can see the treasure chest, you just can't access it unless you have a certain power. I wish I could like progress through the level, get the hammer, and then backtrack, but playing through the level, not that big of a deal. But I got a little sidetracked. These squeaks at the very beginning of the game, they take Kirby's strawberry shortcake. He was about to eat this delicious shortcake, and so Kirby's whole motivation of chasing this Squeak Squad is they took his cake, and he really wants it back. And that's just like typical Kirby. He will just slaughter and consume anything in his pathway to get to that cake, and he'll have a giant smile on his face while doing it. Turns out that this is a little spoiler warning if you want to get through the story of this game, I guess. But inside the chest that the squeaks were stealing is like this eternal evil darkness. He's like a recurring character, but he takes different forms every Kirby game. And so in this chest was also that eternal darkness. So Kirby opens up the chest, trying to get his strawberry shortcake, and it's this eternal evil, and Kirby just slaughters it using the star power, and all is well. It's kind of weird, though, because at the end of the game, even if you 100% complete this game, it says, oh, Kirby, he's looking for his strawberry shortcake still. He doesn't know where it is. Oh, well. But when I did 100% complete this game, it did say that I unlocked the strawberry shortcake, so I was kind of wondering maybe I actually didn't beat the game after I 100% complete it, if that makes sense. I didn't do the final boss, so I wonder if there's a little cutscene at the end saying, oh, he finally got his strawberry shortcake. Kirby's so happy. But there's really not too much story to this. There is an appearance of King Dedede and Meta Knight, but other than that, not really too much to expect from this. So if you like Kirby games, play this game. It's exactly what you expect it to be. If you're not too big on the Kirby game, you can probably pass this up. I'd say probably the best Kirby game on the DS line would be the Kirby Superstar Ultra, because that's like a collection of a ton of different Kirby modes. Probably my least favorite would be Mass Attack, which I did a casual review about earlier this year. I think I will give this game a rating of 3 out of 5. Just a solid Kirby game, not too much new here. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Kirby or this game. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But otherwise, I will talk to you later. Bye!